On the reaction this week,
as Meghan and Harry use their royal crest to launch their new website, why I think they should finally be stripped of their titles to put an end to this nonsense.
come round to my way of thinking. As pro-Palestine protesters lay siege to the Tory MP Tobias Elwood's home, why is it seen as somehow cool to be anti-Israel?
And as Hillary Clinton, no less, finally admits that Biden's age is an issue, is Michelle Obama part of a secret plot to oust him?
I hope not. And with the council house waiting list now at 1.2 million, how come thousands and thousands of homes have been found for, you've guessed it, asylum seekers? Hello and welcome to The Action with me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Sarah Vine. We'll be here every Wednesday on the Daily Mail's YouTube channel, so please make sure you like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.
Well, we start this week with, yes, you guessed it, it's them again, Harry and Meghan. They've relaunched their website, complete with royal crest, as Sussex.com, which many are saying is a total breach of their agreement with the late Queen. Now, Sarah, last week you were being all liberal and being nice about them, saying, give them a chance. Your column today,
I'm an Egypt,
you've blown them out the wall and said they've got to be stripped of everything.
I just felt last week, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. You know, it's it's awful when you have cancer in the family, sort of it should bring you all together. When my father was very ill, it sort of brought us together as a family. And I rather naively thought that perhaps there was a sort of chink. There's a little chink of light. But I mean, honestly, the palace must have known that they were going to do this because presumably they were told. So that would explain why William refused to see his brother. And it would explain why Harry only had half an hour with his dad and then was packed off to a hotel. The title, what was really annoying, what really irritated me was that their people responded to criticism of them relaunching their Archwell website as Sussex.com by saying that Sussex is their surname. It's not their surname. Their surname is Mountbatten Windsor, and Sussex is a title, which is a different thing, and it was given to them by the Queen. Sorry.
As I say, unless they change it by deed poll, Sarah, they cannot be. Their surname is not Sussex.
They are not Mr. and Mrs. Sussex. They are Mr. and Mrs. Mountbatten Windsor, and that's the truth. And so, unless they've changed it by deed poll, let's hope not, because that really would be pretty awful. It's not their name, and they don't own it. It is a title that it is conferred upon them by the Queen.
And it is a shameless way, in my view, to monetarise them by reminding the world that they are royal. He got that title, the Duke of Sussex. She became the Duchess of Sussex. But I wouldn't stop with stripping them of their titles, Sarah. I would go even further and say, sorry, the children, Lilibet, who we've never seen, or we've seen her once, and Archie, they're not going to be prince and princess.
Well, a friend of mine said to me, it was over for me with them when I found out that they had trademarked Lilibet.com.
They had.
Which is extraordinary. And the thing is, I thought, we had Tom Bower on last week, who was really good, and I thought he was a bit harsh, saying that Harry had only come over to remind the Americans and the world that he was of his association with the King. And I think, but actually now I look at it, I think actually maybe that is what he was trying to do.
I think so.
And also the other thing to say, sorry, I keep interrupting, I get so cross about this, is I think the thing is that they've said so many terrible things about the royal family, and particularly Meghan has wanged on endlessly about how awful it was for her, even though she was only a member for about 5 minutes. And yet, it's her crest that's on their website. It's not actually his crest. It's her crest that's on the website that the Queen gave her. And there's a sort of technical point, which is that it's inaccurate because it needs to be updated, but that's a heraldic point. But what is, if she had such an awful time being the Duchess of Sussex when she was living in England in the royal family, why is she using that crest? Wouldn't she want to put it all behind her?
Because she's a hypocrite, because she wants to
monetize
her
the royal
connections.
family.
But here's the other thing. If you read their website, and I actually forced myself to do it, there on page 1, Prince Harry describes himself as a humanitarian campaigner and an environmental activist. How do you think they got to Canada from Los Angeles, Sarah? The 3.5-hour flight, because they're there in Canada as a part of a 3-day tour to promote his charity Invictus Games next year. They went by private jet. Of course they did.
if you took away the Royal Association, he would be a
boring,
slightly thick, balding
Why only
ex-soldier.
slightly?
Okay, well, I'm trying to be nice. She
Okay.
would be a moderately attractive, not very successful ex-actress.
Yeah.
Okay, their currency is their association with the royal family.
All they've got.
Which they have decided to trash comprehensively. So you have to. So you can't have your cake and eat it. Well, I mean, they are having their cake and eating
Yes,
it. But
they
what
are.
I'm. But I just think, you know, that's the bottom line. And any time that's the only way they have of making money, because where they have tried to make money, sort of doing other things, it's not gone very well. I mean, look what happened with Spotify.
Yeah, they've lost the deal.
A Spotify executive calling them a pair of grifters. I mean, those guys don't really stick their necks out unless things must have been really bad. So, you know, they haven't. They could have perfectly easily have gone to America and had their private life and found other things to do that didn't involve milking the royal family. Instead of which they've decided to treat it as a cash cow.
And living on the money that he already had, because he got a lot of money when his
Well, that's
mother
okay.
died,
That's a
grandmother
separate
died.
thing.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah.
If he inherits money, that's fine. I understand that. But it's just that it's... And also the other thing is, where is this big splash that they're supposed to have made in America? You know, they weren't at the Super Bowl. Oprah Winfrey, who was sort of their new best friend for about 5 minutes, seems to have dropped them like a hot stove.
Yeah.
It's clear that it's not really working out. So they're constantly coming back to this one source of interest and fame. And yet, you know, 3 weeks ago, they were hanging out with the president of Jamaica, who's an avowed Republican.
Yes. She's also launching another podcast series with an all-female company. I've never heard of the company. And this company's motto is, we want to make the world suck less. What does that mean? What sort of American psychobabble is that? I mean, they are just appalling, and they proved it yet again. And I'm glad you've now come around to my way of thinking,
I know,
Sarah.
I am a bit of a softie when it comes to things like this, because I mean, you know, I think like a lot of people, I do feel residually sorry for Harry. I think he went through a lot with what happened with his mother.
But it was a long time ago.
But at a certain point, you know, you have to grow up and admit that you're a man.
And his brother went through the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the damage that he's done to his brother by saying the things that, I mean, I don't know why, if he's happy for his father and his sister-in-law, who used to be quite a good friend of his, to be, you know, couched as racists because of something he said, then I don't think he's a very nice person, and I just don't think they need him.
No. So what do you think? Do you agree with Sarah? The only way to stop Harry and Meghan's nonsense is to strip them of their titles. And what about their children's titles too? Little Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. Off with them, I say. Let us know at reaction@dailymail.co.uk, or you can comment below. And don't forget, there will be much more about this, all of this week's Royal News, on tomorrow's episode of our smash hit royal talk show, Palace Confidential. And guess what? Sarah is going to be on it. So make sure you don't miss it. Are you presenting it?
No,
or are you?
I don't know. I think I'm just chatting.
Just in it.
Yes.
Right. She'll be chatting quite a lot,
Chatting.
because she always does. Now, have you seen the pictures, which frankly are shocking, of a pro-Palestinian mob baying outside the home of the Tory MP Tobias Elwood? Bit close to home for you.
Yes, I think there's a very fine line between legitimate protest and intimidation, and I think those people crossed it. I mean, I've had in the past people outside my home, and it's really quite scary sometimes. I mean, you know, 9 out of 10 of them are usually just protesting perfectly reasonably, as they have a right to. But there's always those one or two people who just take it too far. And particularly if you have kids, it's quite scary. And also, my dog used to freak out the whole time because she gets really nervous if anyone's even just walking past the house. So you can imagine having sort of people outside. The other thing is, I think, you know, it's fair to say, is that this situation, you know, for example, this one that they're protesting against, you know, the situation in the Middle East is very complex. There are many aspects to it. It's not really a straightforward black or white thing. And it only takes one sort of nutter to believe the conspiracy theories, which, you know, people put about a lot on the internet.
Well, we saw what the Labour candidate in Rochdale
Yes, exactly. What he was saying, which is that
mad conspiracy theories. Israel encouraged the Hamas
Israel
attack.
allowed the Hamas attack to happen in order to give them the opportunity to invade the Gaza Strip. But also on the other side of the thing, today I've been listening to radio and there's Sadiq Khan talking about this deep fake recording of him, the Mayor of London, again him saying incendiary things. It wasn't him at all. So there's a lot of that sort of disinformation out there, and it only takes one nutter to take it seriously, and then you're in serious trouble because the man who killed David Amess, lovely MP David Amess, who was killed. The same guy tried to kill Michael, my ex-husband, Michael Gove, and was outside our house the police tracked him outside our house when they eventually arrested him, and they got his mobile phone and they looked at where he'd been, because you can tell. He'd been outside our house multiple times, literally at sort of 7:30 in the morning, just when I'm taking the kids to school.
Yeah.
So people just need to stop and think that if you're standing outside somebody's house, you may not agree with them, you may not like them, you may think they're wrong, but they also, don't put them in danger. Intimidation is not okay. Protest is fine. Intimidation is not okay.
And the thing is, Sarah, Tobias Elwood's got a young family. They didn't know. As it happens, they weren't in, but they didn't know they weren't in.
But I've had that as well, where because they weren't at the house, they went somewhere else. But I've had that where I've had to put my children in the car at 11 o'clock at night and drive them round to a friend's house because something's happened and we've known that.
It's cowardly and vile, isn't it? And the police should have moved them on immediately.
Yes, exactly.
They were far too slow. And one of the protesters say, which I found absolutely shocking, was the woman Labour Party candidate who stood against Tobias Elwood at the last general election. So she aspires to be a member of Parliament. She wants to be part of the political establishment, and that's how she behaves. She joins a baying mob outside someone's private home.
It's mob rule, and there are perfectly good ways of protesting. And like I said, there's a difference between protesting and intimidation, and we have to be really careful about that. Go to Parliament, vote, whatever. And then there was that incident at the Soho Theatre this week where that comedian Paul Curry did his show, and then at the end of
an unfunny comedian, I should add.
I haven't seen his stuff, but he then pulled out a Palestinian flag and urged the audience to applaud in support, and one person didn't, and he pulled them out of the audience and said, why haven't you applauded? And he said, well, because I'm a supporter of Israel. And then he basically hounded this person out of the theatre.
Absolutely shameful.
And that's not okay.
And I've talked to the guy who hounded that theatre, Jewish and gay. So he's had all sorts of persecution in his life.
Exactly.
And the theatre, to be fair to the Soho Theatre, they say Mr. Curry, that the unfunny comedian, will not be returning, and there is even talk now that his show will be banned. But what was worse, nobody came to the defence of the Jewish guy who was being singled out by the comedian.
They joined in. Him as well.
They did. Appalling.
I know, it's awful.
What is it about Palestine that incites the mob and they turn with such vehemence and viciousness against Israel and anybody who supports the state of Israel, which is, by the way, the only proper democracy in the Middle East?
It's anti-Semitism.
Exactly what it is.
That's just one word, anti-Semitism.
Don't you think they should stop calling it anti-Semitism? Because I think a lot of people look blankly at anti-Semitism. I think we should say it's Jew-hating.
Yes, it's anti-Israel. It's
anti-Jewish people.
They just, from the river to the sea means that they want the state of Israel to be obliterated.
They do.
That's what it means.
And
that's not right, because the Jews have as much right to be there as anybody else.
And we've seen in the Labour Party, I think this is going to be a problem that Keir Starmer thought he'd solved, and he hasn't, because I think it's top to bottom in the Labour Party. They've got a real problem with anti-Semitism.
Well, I think there's an element of it's just kind of fashionable to support Palestine.
Yeah.
It reminds me a bit of when I was younger and everybody thought Che Guevara was a really cool dude. It's the idea of the underdog fighting back again, and because Israel is such a sort of kind of well-organised, well-structured democracy,
and it's a successful nation.
And so there's a sense that it must be evil, because there's this sort of romantic idea of David and Goliath and people throwing stones at people with guns, and it's all those things. It really is that romantic idea of rebellion, and it has its appeal. But what people forget is that there's a reason why Israel is a successful state, which is that it's very heavy. It's a democracy. I mean, I don't like Netanyahu at the moment. I agree he's not the right person to be handling this crisis at all. And I think that some of the responses of Israel have been, I would say, very heavy-handed, probably too heavy-handed. But there are arguments for both sides. But what I would say is that it's just so much more complex than people think it is.
And you never, do you, ever see a pro-Israel mob jeering and protesting outside an MP's house who's on the other side of the argument?
And
you just don't.
You see those gatherings in support of Israel, and they're always just very sort of low-key, and they're always just, you know,
civilised.
Quite sort of. Anyway, so do you agree that it is somehow seen as cool to be pro-Palestine and anti-Israel, and why do you think that is? Let us know at reaction@dailymail.co.uk or comment below.
Now, it seems every week we get yet another example of sleepy Joe Biden's unsuitability to be President of the United States. This week, he can't remember when he was Vice President. Pretty significant moment in his life, you'd have thought. And even Hillary Clinton, the former First Lady, has finally admitted that his age, he's 81, is now an important issue. There are rumours that Michelle Obama, another former First Lady, is being groomed to step in at the last minute to save the Democrats. What a complete mess.
I know. It's interesting, though, isn't it? Because Hillary Clinton is quite significant because, of course, she ran to be president and lost to Trump. But I think the fact her intervention, I think, is the first really significant intervention we've had, because it's an indication that the Democrats are going to make some sort of intervention, I think.
Time's running out.
I mean, lots of people have said for years and years and years that Michelle Obama should be the president. I mean, there's a sort of romantic fascination with her because Barack, although he didn't really do anything.
Yeah, what did he do as president? Didn't even close down Guantanamo Bay.
But, you know, he was the sort of ultimate...
Didn't sort out gun control?
No, he didn't, but still, people loved him. You know, he was a great... He had the gift of the gab. And
yes, he was a great orator.
He was a great orator, and he was a kind of... I think he was a nice man, I think.
But don't you think it's desperate measures in a country of 330 million that, first of all, is Biden versus Trump. So then we take out Biden. We go back to a family that's already been in the White House.
Yeah.
Dynasty starred Joan Collins. It shouldn't be starring politicians. We do Dynasty. It's called Our Royal Family, Hereditary.
They do political dynasties, don't they? That's their thing.
We've had two Bushes in the White House. We'll have had Clinton won twice. She nearly got in. We've had Obama in twice. Now we're going to have another Obama. No, they've got to come up with something a bit better, Sarah. They've got to broaden the gene pool.
I mean, if I were Michelle Obama, I would run very quickly in the opposite direction, to be perfectly honest. I really wouldn't want anything to do. I thought Oprah Winfrey was supposed to be the President of the United States of America.
Or what about
Meghan Markle?
Meghan Markle, there you are, because she thinks she'll be there one day.
She could get a job.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think the whole thing is very much waiting to unfold, because it's becoming increasingly apparent that he actually can't do it.
And of course they're saying, because...
I mean, if they have any kind of debate, I mean, how's he going to cope in a sort of live debate?
He does this press conference where he's robust and says this report by a Republican sympathetic lawyer about his mental state is not true, and he knows this, he knows that, and then he gets the president of Mexico mixed up.
With Egypt.
Yes. And there's quite a big difference, and there's quite a big difference, they're both on different continents.
Well, that was what struck me about that interview with Putin last week, the Tucker Carlson interview with Putin. I mean, I just thought to myself, gosh, Putin's not a nice man, not a good man, and he has a lot of delusions, but at least he knows who he's at war with, which is more than can be said for President Biden.
Do you think Biden knows he's president of the whole time?
I think sometimes he does, but probably not most of the time, yes.
And of course, lurking in the wings is Kamala Harris, who is the vice president, who apparently makes Joe Biden seem like a towering intellect.
But I mean, the thing is that we shouldn't be too mocking of Biden, because he's obviously got some sort of cognitive impairment, which is a shame. I mean, it's very sad. But the thing is that you can't be the President of the United States of America if you're not the full biscuit.
I don't think you can be the President of anywhere. I don't think you should be President of your local WI if you've got serious issues. But I think the First Lady, who seems very nice, Mrs. Biden, she has to have a word in Joe's ear and say, maybe she's going to run for president. Maybe they give it to her instead.
Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, what should we do?
Get off with it. He's got to go. So what do you think should be done about Biden? Is Michelle Obama the answer? Absolutely not, in my view.
Or even Meghan Markle.
Or Meghan Markle. That really would be a game changer. Let us know your thoughts at reaction@dailymail.co.uk or comment below.
On last week's show, we asked whether King Charles should have revealed more about his specific cancer diagnosis. Sybil emailed to say King Charles has shared about his prostate issue and his cancer diagnosis. What more do you want? That he should spread out his entrails for the media to pick over? No! He is entitled to some privacy. I agree.
I still think it will happen, though. And on the topic of Prince Harry's dash to see his father, and the interview we did with Tom Bower, the royal biographer, Pauline said on YouTube, Harry hasn't offered an olive branch as far as I can see. I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. When I think of the last days of Prince Philip and our late Queen, it reinforces Tom Bower's and Andrew Pierce's disgust at the behaviour of Prince Harry. I'm in their camp 100%.
Yes,
she'd be in your camp now.
I was wrong.
She'd be in your camp now.
We also discussed whether children under 16 should be banned from owning smartphones. Jeannie commented, children under 16 do not need a smartphone. They need a phone that makes and receives calls and text messages only. So glad that my child is now in his early 30s and was never exposed to the internet on his phone.
Why does a child need a phone at all?
No, well, because, we didn't have phones.
We didn't have them.
I remember when I went off to university, I don't think I rang my parents for about 3 months.
Oh, we didn't have a phone at home until 2 weeks before I left school, and then I lived in bedsits for years and years and had no phone. Now, lastly, on Tucker Carlson's interview with Putin, Catherine says every argument has two sides, so why have we not been allowed to hear what Putin says? Otherwise, we could just be hearing a lot of propaganda. Now, my allergic reaction this week is straightforward. There are 1.2 million people on the council house waiting list. Yet, the government, we hear, has provided homes for 16,000 asylum seekers. 5-year deals have been struck with landlords, 5-year lease. This is a similar problem in the United States too, where all the migrants are pouring in from Mexico. Build the wall, Joe, build the wall. Or is it a fence Biden would have? Either wall or a fence. And perhaps we could have one in England too, actually. That would stop the blimmin' French coming across the channel. This is going to cause huge resentment, Sarah.
But is it better or worse than putting them in 4-star hotels?
No, put them in former army camps, put them in former Butlins holiday camps, Pontins camps. I had some very happy holidays in Butlins there. They wouldn't be quite as happy now because they're disused. Put them there, and while they're there, for their board and lodge, they have to pick some potatoes.
Maybe the government could have a system whereby sort of fashionable left-wing celebrities
take them into their
homes and get paid a small amount of money each week to feed and look after them.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Or what they could actually do is that instead of giving those homes,
because the celebrities often have more than one home.
Yes.
And so they could probably their second or third.
Let's
home.
nominate Emma Thompson.
Yes.
First.
So we could find out which celebrities have second or third homes.
Yeah.
And then maybe they could be commandeered.
Yeah.
Obviously, the government would pay them a small fee, a sort of nominal amount of money for their disturbance fee, and then they could that would be, I think, quite sensible.
The other thing they could do, the government, instead of giving the asylum seekers 16,000 homes, they could process their applications and send them back, because we know most of them shouldn't be here in the first place. That would really solve the problem. And in America, it is going to be a big issue for Biden, because Trump was getting to grips with illegal migration. Biden has let it absolutely become a huge issue.
Also, I look around me and I see a lot of homeless people.
Homes.
I see a lot of homeless people on the streets, and they don't. Very rarely they look. A lot
of them will be former armed soldiers who've got all sorts of mental health issues, post-traumatic stress, and yet asylum seekers come here. They've paid nothing into the system, often can't speak English, and they get a nice home.
Yeah,
it ain't right.
It's not right. Anyway, do you want to know what's annoying me this week?
Go on. I think
What's
I can
today?
guess. Today is February the 14th, Wednesday the 14th. It's Reaction Day, but it's also Valentine's Day. How many Valentine's cards did you get?
None. I hate Valentine's Day.
Mine must be lost in the post.
I hate Valentine's Day. It is awful. It is, well, I always remember when I was at school, I was the specky girl with the big feet. And it was always the sort of blonde with the knockers who got 70,000 Valentine's card, and you used to sit there feeling like an absolute piece of, dog poo because you didn't have a Valentine's card. And people would say to you, have you got a Valentine's card?
Didn't you send any to yourself?
No, I'm not. No, obviously that's sad and pathetic.
But people did that in my school.
So, and the other thing is that San Valentino, which is where it comes from, is not about going and buying a Marks and Spencer's special meal deal with some stupid hearts on it. It's supposed to be about telling your beloved that you love them when they don't know. So it's about it's sort of an expression of unrequited or unknown love. That I understand. But this sort of awful thing where, you know, you go to Marks and Spencer's or you go wherever it is, Tesco, and there's a meal deal with some Valentine's Day meal deal with, you know, a bunch of overpriced, processed roses. It's just tacky and horrible. And also, I just think it makes people who don't have a relationship.
Did your husband ever buy you a Valentine's card?
I can't remember.
Oh.
Probably.
Did you ever buy him one?
No, I don't do Valentine's Day.
Right.
I just don't do Valentine's Day. I think there are much better ways of showing that you love somebody, like taking the bins out, for example. That's an excellent way of showing.
That's the Theresa May and Philip May marriage.
So that's
you remember that?
So gestures of true love, taking out the bins, unloading the dishwasher, not mentioning when you put on a bit of weight.
Right.
Occasionally cooking food or doing something nice.
Okay.
But it's, you know, just those are the gestures of love that I want.
And saying your hair looks lovely when it doesn't, or it does. It does look very lovely today, Sarah.
Noticing that you've actually had your hair cut.
That's the point.
That's always a good one.
Don't
Many men don't.
I know.
I think that love is about the day-to-day tiny little gesture. Are you going out for I like to call it morantic because it has the word moron in it.
I do not do twee meals for two boys in a little restaurant in the corner, and they say, "Oh, we'll give you this nice table for two."
So you're not going to be wearing your LGBT badge?
No. And then they put a mangy flower from the garage in between you, and they say, "Can we show you interest you in our Valentine's Day menu?" No. And no, we don't want any champagne. No, just bring us what we always have. Thank you very much. We might go to the local Greek.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
But they won't think we're there for Valentine's Day.
But you have bought him a Valentine's card.
Yeah.
And he has bought you.
Yeah, and I found my Valentine's card and present in my bag this morning.
What was your present?
Unfortunately, I haven't opened it. And unfortunately, his Valentine's card is also still in my bag, because I haven't even taken out the bag to write it, so that's going to go down very well.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
And I haven't bought a present. Any thoughts?
You can pay for dinner.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is it for today.
I always do.
That is it for today. Join us again next Wednesday if you can for more reaction to the stories making the headlines.
And we'll be asking Sarah if there were any Valentine's cards on her doormat when she gets home. We will be asking.
From the dog, maybe.
Well, and make sure you like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. See you again next Wednesday.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.